What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
When I think about what a leader's role is, it's to scale a project, it's to scale a vision, it's to grow a team. And I couldn't think of a better person for us to spend time visiting with today than Adam Jackson. When you learn about Adam's background, what he's been able to accomplish, not once, not two, not three, four times, he got involved with ventures, and that he's just a seasoned entrepreneur. And the message that he has for us, I think today works well whether or not you're scaling a startup or you're working within a Fortune 100 organization. Because there you're scaling projects. You're trying to expand reach. You're trying to get people connected to cause, vision, and dreams, and using systems and processes in order to make that happen. And the beauty about his background is that he brings both a human element to it as well as a technology base to it also. Mirroring those two things is where you get scale. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, not a problem at all. Tell us about, give us a 30-second snapshot about your journey, so to speak, and about this awesome tool and resource you built called Braintrust Air.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a computer engineer, software developer by training. I studied computer science down at Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, and moved out here to San Francisco right out of school. So, like 2003 or so. I've been out here for a while, and sort of a software engineer turned entrepreneur. My first business was a local shopping marketplace that let people search online for locally available products to help local stores compete with Amazon. We grew that into a national marketplace. We're acquired by Intuit, makers of QuickBooks and TurboTax. And I spent about a year as a product manager on the QuickBooks team. I started my second business in 2007 called DriverSide, which connects car owners with mechanics that have excess capacity in their service bays. So let mechanics use the internet to drive their business. Grew that into a national marketplace acquired by Advance Auto Parts, which you probably have down in Houston, big auto parts franchise. And then in 2012, I started my third company called Doctor on Demand. My co-founder there was Dr. Phil McGraw, and another Texan who until recent retirement had a popular daytime TV show, and that was one of the country's first live video telemedicine services that allowed patients to have live video discussions with doctors and therapists for non-emergency medical things, and get your prescription filled and that kind of thing. Save yourself having to take off a day of work, go to the doctor. Grew that into a very large service, and then merged it with another enterprise healthcare company, and that merged company will hopefully go public here someday. And then my fourth business, the one I'm currently working on, called Braintrust, I started in 2018, and we started life as a tech jobs marketplace. So what I'd call enterprise grade technical talent, programmers, designers, product managers, security engineers, matching them with largely Fortune 1000 companies that need their services. So Google, Bank of America, Nike, Nestle, Volkswagen, many other companies for either contract or full-time work. And then, so that grew really quickly. And I don't know if you remember back in 2018, 2019, there was a war for technical talent, and it was really hard to find these tech people. So we grew that part of the business up to 100 million in revenue pretty quickly. And then in 2002, the rate hikes came, the hiring freezes came, the economy slowed down, or what I call the enterprise recession set in. And so our growth stalled out. And so we started looking at, let's start building some AI tools that can automate the back end operations of the marketplace, and everywhere from sourcing candidates, screening them, matching resumes to job descriptions, and then actually conducting first round interviews. And so we collected that. Put that collection of tools together is now called Braintrust Air, AI Recruiter. And that's essentially what it does. You post a job, say Monday morning, you get 800-900 applicants these days, maybe 1,000. Air will sift through every one of those applicants and see, is this person likely a good fit based on skills, experience, that kind of thing. And then say narrow the list down to about 100. Air will then reach out to each of those 100 people and conduct a live video interview, just like you and I are chatting and seeing each other right now. And it's built on LLM technology. So the Air is trained. We train it for any role. It started as just tech jobs, but now we're interviewing every day nurses, substitute teachers, Uber Eats drivers, warehouse workers, accountants, etc. Still tech people as well. And basically, it'll narrow that list of 1,000 down to 100, have 100 conversations, and then hand the hiring manager back the best five. So you post a job Monday morning, and by Tuesday afternoon, you've got five well-vetted people. Human takes over, and now he or she can have just hopefully 5 or 6 conversations and find the right fit. So you've crushed the hiring process from 6 weeks down to 2 days. You're getting people who are getting, maybe if you're applicant number 775 that day, the human recruiter wouldn't have gotten to your resume, but maybe you're the best fit for the job. So the AI makes sure the really good folks aren't slipping through the cracks. And we sell that as a standalone service now. Staffing industry, all kinds of different companies use it.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, then, because as you were describing before we got on the line, the reason, the word I wrote down was you're actually a connector. When I start thinking about from your path, not just with Braintrust, but with the different roles you've used technology, literally, to find ways of connecting people. And I know that right now in the talent acquisition space, whether it's a third party recruiter or a corporation, we're dealing with data overload.
Right.
There's so much data that you have to go and source through. I was talking to friends in the recruiting industry recently about how LinkedIn was supposed to put the recruiting industry out of business, and it became the greatest tool we ever got our hands on.
It
Because
made the recruiting industry that much more important.
but was because you've got all this stuff, and it doesn't there. And when I look at what you're doing right now, um, how could a recruiting firm maximize the technology that you have to make themselves more efficient and effective?
Sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, this is actually a huge customer segment for us. I know these are not the same thing, but I'm going to kind of lump together recruiting and staffing. And
Same
I know
thing,
those are different, but
but it's
like,
okay.
for this conversation, it's sort of the
It,
same for
we'll,
us.
we'll call it's talent acquisition. It's recruiting or
There
staffing
you go.
in that space.
There you go. And so, when a big company turns to a staffing firm or recruiting firm, they're buying a solution, right? They need a person, maybe in the future, and a person combined with an AI agent. We can come back to that later, but they're buying a solution, and so the solution has to be a really skilled, talented person who's the right fit for the role, and they've got to fill it quickly, right? That's your job, and so it's
Hmm.
quality and speed. And so what Air does is it's not meant to replace a staffing firm or recruiting firm. It's meant to make that firm 100 times more effective for their client. And so it does that by being able to look through. I mean, you just called us a connector, and I'll take it, but we also get called a spam filter because
Yeah.
for your ATS, right? Because ATSs have turned into spam boxes
Hmm.
because it costs nothing, zero effort. There's even AI tools that help people apply for 1,000 jobs a day. Good for them, I guess, but very bad for the recruiter, whoever's on the other end of that Workday or Greenhouse instance. You now has to sift through all that stuff, and the bottom line is they're not going to. They're
Hmm.
gonna do their best to have as many substantive conversations as they can until they find the right person, and sometimes maybe it's just the good enough person
Hmm.
for the role. And so what Air does is it cuts through all that spam. It does a lot of the boring, repetitious, things that where bias can be introduced. It strips that bias out. Where fatigue may be introduced, we
Hmm.
strip that out. And so we're helping recruiting and staffing firms deliver the best people faster.
Yeah, because you brought up the word bias. This isn't a plug for what's coming down the road, but uh, what you see here, Secrets for Hiring Right, will actually hit Amazon in about 45 days. It's going to look different than that because I designed that cover, and then a friend of mine introduced me to Jackie, who is a as a design specialist. And when you see what she came up with, much better than what I did. But
That one's not too bad, man. Don't
it,
sell yourself short here, Mike.
it's not bad. But when you see what Jackie did with it, she made it explode. It made it pop. It's
Nice.
pretty special. But the key thing is there's a whole section in there that has to do with in hiring. We fight the 10 basic biases that we have, and bias is not just it's not just ethnicity. It's having preconceived thoughts that limit our views.
Yep.
And now, so how does this help from a bias standpoint?
Yeah. So the way we built so AIR is a skill assessment tool, right? It's meant to do a great job at helping determine whether a candidate will be technically able to do this job and will do it well, right? And so you can get very specific, but like a Java developer at Bank of America looks different from a Java developer at Google. An accountant for KPMG is going to look different from an accountant at a mom and pop shop in Orlando, right? And
Hmm.
so it's just, so the big companies can customize their criteria for it. And the AIR's job is to just see, are you going to be a good technical fit for this role, whether it's a nurse or an accountant or a programmer or Uber Eats driver or whatever. And so we built it to only do that job. So it doesn't look at ethnicity, age, location, even education, right? Like, I mean, unless location matters, right? If you got to be within 40 miles of, a hospital in Louisville, then yeah, location matters. But,
Hmm.
and so we built it from the ground up to just ignore all those things that create bias in humans. And we actually hired a third-party firm to test it and prove it for us. The way they did it is they jammed through a couple hundred resumes that all had the same skills and work experience, but different names, different locations, different colleges, and they all scored exactly the same. So that sort of proved like this is a skill assessment tool.
Hmm. That's super. Yeah, it's intriguing, and I wanted to spend time talking about this as a foundation. For those who are in the talent acquisition field, realizing that this is cutting edge technology that's out there. It doesn't replace the human element. It helps the human process the vast amount of information in there to put it in more of a manageable way to where you can get that top tier individual from a skill standpoint to be able to address the needs so that you can step in and then start making the cultural matches.
Exactly
That's
right.
what I'm hearing you say then. So the reason I wanted to meet you was because of the fact that this is not your first rodeo. This is you've been at this for a while now, and
Hope it's my last.
yeah, until the next time I talk to you.
Right, right, right.
But if you look at your journey, you've had the ability to scale businesses and to be able to go from concept to bring technology into play, um, to go from vision to reality. Um, in doing so, what are the two or three stumbling blocks that you had to look at yourself to learn to grow around to be able to navigate the storms that come from rapid acceleration?
Sure. Well, so I'll start by saying you're very lucky if you ever see rapid acceleration.
That's
Most people
relative.
don't,
Right.
right? And that was my first kind of stumbling block, if you want to call it. I have so many, but a lot of times, especially tech geeks like me, I love building software. I love, creating things that people can use. But so many times I've built things that just people didn't want to use, or it wasn't solving a problem, or maybe it was adjacent to solving a problem. So the first thing would be design your solution, whether it's software or a car wash or whatever, right? Design your solution with your customers right next to you, telling you exactly what they want this thing to do, because they're going to hire your company to solve a problem for them, right? And the closer you get to, taking more pain away from their day-to-day job, the more likely you're going to get lucky enough to see acceleration, right?
Hmm.
And so that's the first one. And then the second one's a little more zoomed out, a little more meta, but was a lesson I feel like I learned a little too late in life was, the only thing standing between you and, realizing your goals and success and abundance is fear. And it's usually fear of failure, right? You're afraid your customer is going to say something you don't like. You're afraid something's you're going to let someone down. You're just fear is what holds us back, right? And so this is something I tell myself every day when I start the day: have no fear today. And the more you can in it, because it turns out the things you fear probably aren't worth being afraid of generally.
Mhm.
So that those are a couple things.
Yeah, yeah. The fear is a common topic that I have a tendency to hone in on because people who have listened to our show before have heard me talk about the 13 years that I spent dealing with massive panic attacks. And I was dealing with situations where I'm blowing things out of proportion, right? Which is the essence of what a panic attack is. It's normally out of proportion.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and you learned all these coping techniques called run away,
Yeah.
duck your head,
Right.
ignore, hide, and so where did for you? You seemed a really confident person. What were situations? Is there a situation that came up where you had, that was it fear of failure, fear of letting somebody down that was really kind of an apex moment for you that you had to learn from and get past it?
Yeah, I'll tell you so my first two companies, I was co-founder CTO, so I wasn't in the seat. My first CEO job was Doctor on Demand, and I started that, as I mentioned, with Dr. Phil, who this guy is such a force of nature,
Hmm.
fears nothing, and he has been attacked every which way you can imagine, and just doesn't give a shit. I mean, he is. I learned a lot from him. He was like a close mentor of mine, and just anything that so usually for me it would be a combination of fear of failure and fear that something's going to be too hard, too complicated, right? So I learned after a while, it's like just dive into it. Like, if even really hard things, just start doing it. Do a little bit each day, and the more you sort of stare it down. I've heard Elon Musk say this too, who is absolutely the most fearless person among us, I'm convinced. um the longer you sort of stare at something, the less scary it is. And you just start, if you're an entrepreneur starting something from scratch, hack away at it day by day and the more time you spend with this thing that sounded really hard, you'll wake up a month later and you're like, I'm used to thinking about this thing all day. I'm not afraid of it anymore. So that's been one
Hmm.
tactic that's worked for me.
Yeah, especially I love this thing is that the longer you stare at something, the less scary it gets.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the longer you stare at it, as long as you're looking at, somebody told me this before, said, Mike, you're bringing up all the what ifs. What do we know is fact? Right? Would stop me. So it knows this, 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 and this. I said, well, based upon that, so let's take a step because the fear comes in of what we don't know or what might happen, as opposed to going back to that center post of what do we know? What facts are
Right.
on the table? Thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility, it's an honor.